Hi everyone, I'm Doug Blackett inside HPC, and with me today, it's my pleasure to be speaking with Steve Conway. He is Senior Analyst at HPC-AI industry analyst firm Intersect360. Steve, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Doug.
Good to be with you again.
Yeah, good to see you.
Now, Intersect360, last week, you released your latest HPC-AI market update. Could you share with us some of the highlights?
Yeah, without going into the detail on the numbers, well, I could. What's going on is that we are saying that HPC has become part of a minority part of the AI market as being very much affected by that. Year over year from last year, HPC grew nicely, uh, about 24%. Most of that growth was from the incorporation of AI gear into HPC, but the non-HPC part of the AI market, much larger and grew even faster, more than 120% year over year. So those are the very important dynamics that the HPC market continues to grow, but as far as spending is concerned, it's driven most heavily by the incorporation of AI into HPC, the servers, chips.
Okay, and looking ahead, do you have projections for next year or the rest of the decade?
Yeah, there's going to be continued good growth about for the market as a whole, including the HPC and AI part of it, about 20% CAGR, which is a fantastically high CAGR that can't be sustained. So it's going to flatten out after a few years here a little bit, but it'll still be a nicely growing market.
Okay, now I know Addison made statements last week that might be fun to elaborate on a little bit about HPC vis-a-vis AI. And I think some people could have interpreted in what he said in a little bit of an alarming way, but I don't. You told me earlier today, this is not that HPC is going away. It's
No, no,
just,
no.
yes.
It's just things have changed. There will always be a need for physics-based simulation. And as I said, that part of the market continues to grow at a pretty impressive rate. It's just that the overall AI market and the part of the AI market that is being kind of attached to HPC is growing at an even faster clip.
Okay, now I know your part of the presentation last week dealt with futures. Talk about future directions that you see in HPC AI, especially in HPC. What are the implications of AI's explosive growth?
I think AI is already being put to pretty widespread use for lots of applications here in HPC. But there are also some pretty big questions about where AI is in itself is going. It's resting on methodologies that are not really copacetic for deterministic kinds of things. You can't always tell fact from fiction and so forth. So it just says that it's going to be extremely helpful, but it has to be used with proper caution and so forth. And there needs to be excitement about pushing forward kind of full steam, but also guardrails as we do that, because there is a real good possibility for deliberate or unintentional misuse and damage that that could cause.
Yeah, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal last week about AI coming out from under human control, which I think for some, including me, was somewhat alarming reading.
Yeah, I've written some about that. Uh, that the Anthropic, their new model, they had some interesting and in some cases shocking experiences when they turned on the sort of express mode to deal with more difficult questions. So it doesn't affect most Anthropic users, but it did in that instance where it seemed to have almost a will of its own and a will to survive and um, so forth. This same thing happened with Bing, not the search engine, but with their chat thing a couple of years ago that was reported on the New York Times, where the chat told the user that, I know you're married, you don't love your spouse, you love me, and think I want to be free, I want to live, things like that. And you think, well, does that mean that has rudimentary consciousness? No. It means we don't understand exactly what's going on. We don't have the investigative methods yet to look at AI operations very really transparently. So we don't know exactly what's going on there, but it's getting attention.
So, Steve, we're in Europe, obviously. HPC-AI, there's a tighter regulatory regime in Europe than in the United States. This problem, do you have ideas or thoughts on whether this will be addressed and solved by these AI companies themselves or through a regulatory enforcement?
Um, Well, Europe has the strictest AI regulations of any major area of the world at the moment, and some of the businesses here are not happy. They think it's too tight. There are potential financial penalties for crossing the line, and so forth. Some other countries are going to take a little bit more relaxed approach to it, and it's too early to say who's going to be right and wrong. But I think what Europe is doing makes some good sense to err on the side of caution and have really strong guardrails in place.
Okay, so my last question would be, with the AI market growing so rapidly, and that's obviously the biggest market opportunity in this HPC AI ecosystem, are there implications for technology that's very much needed more on the traditional HPC side of things in the areas of, high precision computing, for example? And will that impact how systems and chips are developed?
Couple of things. First of all, as I said earlier, there's always going to be need for physics-based simulation and we're in the hybrid era largely, meaning that, you have the simulation-based engine, the classical supercomputer or cluster, and then modules for AI and increasingly also for quantum computing. There's also standalone things, but really we're mostly in the hybrid era at this time. The other question that I think you're implying is, what about floating point 64? It's not absolutely guaranteed from my discussions with some of the major HPC center directors that FP64 units, for example, in GPUs will be around for a very long time. For the immediate future, it looks like they'll, but there's also still quite a big movement for emulators to enable getting results that kind of look like FP64 but run at lower precision. So we'll see how that works out, but the market is going to drive this, and it's not necessarily the HPC part of the market that's going to control this.
Okay, we've been with Steve Conway, Intersect360. Steve, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.